Scotland is a country long renowned for its reputation of quaint pubs, raving nightclubs and a bustling nightlife. However, it's not all about the cold pints and the cheery red-faced barman. Films and media such as Trainspotting have highlighted the darker side of Scotland, painting the country as a hub for Europe's growing drug problem. Party culture and notorious nightlife is what draws many people to visit or study in Scotland's major cities. However, over the decades we've seen too many cases of people taking it too far and becoming a part of Scotland's drug culture. These kind of actions often lead to serious addiction, and many believe it's time to take a real stance against allowing people to fall into these ways and to start preventing drug overdose deaths. Name about yourself and your journey within advocating for the drug consumption rules.
Hi, my name's Peter Crykant. I currently work for the Harm Reduction and Social Justice charity Cranston. I first got involved in working in this type of work about maybe just over 5 years ago. So yeah, I mean, in terms of like my own experience, you know, like I think for me personally, you know, like you know, my childhood wasn't, you know, it was tough in many ways, you know. It wasn't like you know, an easy childhood, you know. Like at a young age, you know, I started to get into trouble at a very young age, and you know, and I'm talking about 5-6 years old, you know. Like you know, my first report card from my primary one school teacher in 1982, my first report card from my primary one school teacher was that Peter is an unhappy and quarrelsome child and needs to mature a bit. Now, I know teachers wouldn't be writing that now on a report card, but that followed me throughout my childhood. You know, I was quarrelsome, unhappy. You know, there was obviously things going on, and rather than asking him about what those things were, it was always just that you know, he's a problem child. You know, and by sort of my teenage years, you know, I was already in terms of drug use, using multiple different drugs. You know, and drugs were a great solution for me, you know, in terms of, you know, finding friendships, you know, being able to, you know, sort of move away from maybe some of the aggression that I was experiencing as a young child and, you know, in my early teens. And, you know, I had some amazing times on drugs, you know, and however, you know, like dependency for me was something, you know, that came at a young age as well, you know, and that led to, you know, being homeless and, you know, sleeping rough, out every day, you know, sitting on the streets, asking people for change, you know, injecting, you know, drugs in really horrible conditions.
Over the last 2 decades, drug-related deaths have increased at an alarming rate in Scotland. In 2022, NRS Scotland reported almost 20 drug-related deaths every 100,000 people in the country. Scottish mortality rates to drug misuse and related deaths are the highest in Europe, and higher than the United States. This rate is 3.5 times higher than England and Wales. Various different governments have failed to find a solution to this problem. However, recent years have seen campaigning for the opening of drug consumption rooms from protesters and members of Parliament alike, with the UK's first consumption room given the go-ahead to open in Glasgow in summer, and Edinburgh soon to follow suit.
You know, I think ultimately, you know, we can talk about evidence all day. You know, we've got, you know, over 200 of these sites and now 17 countries around the world. You know, we see that these facilities, you know, as I say, they keep people alive. You know, people are not likely to die in one of these facilities. They do reduce bloodborne virus transmissions, but I think ultimately, you know, the evidence is not really what's going to change people's minds who are opposed to this. You know, what we need to focus on is the emotions, you know, and many emotions, you know, those emotions can be linked to, you know, individuals. Most people, I think now, in society have had some sort of connection with somebody who's dependent on some type of substance, whether that be alcohol, you know, or any other type of substance, you know, or substances that you will see consumed in these facilities, like heroin and cocaine. You know, these emotions, we need to talk about those, you know. We need to talk about if it was a family member, you know, if it was someday a friend or a family member, would you prefer that they had this safe, sterile environment, or would you prefer that they were abandoned in some rat-infested alleyway, in some abandoned building on their own without any support or help around them? The people that survive, because a lot of people will just die because they're not used to these strengths and these tolerances, but the people who survive, it'll be too late. Within that first year, you know, of working in this area, I really started to understand, you know, how dramatic and how bad Scotland's problem was with drug-related harms and of course drug-related deaths, you know, which at that point 5-6 years ago were the highest in Europe, and now today continue to still be the highest in Europe. I suppose the driving force in opening the unsanctioned supervised consumption site in Glasgow was my last job, which was an HIV outreach coordinator in Glasgow City Centre. You know, I fully understood from the evidence that, you know, these types of consumption facilities, you know, people don't die in these facilities, but also, you know, we don't see bloodborne virus transmissions, and at that point Glasgow had the largest outbreak of HIV that the UK had seen in 30 years.
Throughout history, drug addiction has long held a negative stigma in society. Many people still believe drug addicts to be the lowest of the low and believe they should be punished. However, in the modern day, the issue is becoming not so black and white.
Golden brown, texture like sun, lays me down. With my mind she runs throughout the night. No need to fight, never a frown with golden brown. Every time, just like the last, on her ship, tied to the mast.
Yeah, I mean, there's some people who will always be ideologically opposed to this, and normally they're called Tories.